wait.
It is May 3rd, 2023. This is Atlanta United FC Weekly, a Home Before Dark podcast. No.
Oh, boy.
Oh, I am Tim Herb. As always, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Mr. Kevin Bradley, across the table from me this evening. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
Good. I would be better if Dan James would have been joining us, but he had to go eat dinner or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like he was hungry.
We really only rescheduled for him to begin with, and then he still couldn't make it.
He's like, sorry, guys. Yeah. Oh, anyway, if you guys are tuning in on YouTube, watching us live, thank you for taking this time out of your Wednesday evening this week. Richard Gordon, Elliot Beaven, Brandon Scott, Joe Johnstone, Brittany S., the Iron Woman. Doesn't miss a podcast. Doesn't miss a show. It's
for all of Dan's shortcomings, there is at least Brittany S. So.
Yep. Which is always a highlight, especially in a week where we
have a lot of lowlights on the team.
Yeah, a lot of lowlights. Oh, Josh Pagriansky's in the house. Josh Pagriansky tuning in. So. Also, if you guys are not subscribed, hit the subscription button or subscribe button, notification bell icon. Get notified whenever we go live. Hit the like button, all that good stuff. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating and or a review. It helps us get found. What other things? You can donate to the show if you want. It's on Red Circle. We have a Red Circle. Nobody's ever done it. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's just there.
Just
it's
living like paycheck to paycheck, which is 0 to 0.
Yeah, 0 to 0.
Which is what
I wish the score was on Saturday.
Yeah, no kidding. I would have taken the 0 to 0.
So, growing up mostly in the South, cheering for Auburn football, a lot of it, I can't stand Tennessee, like UT.
Yeah.
And that's really starting to translate to Nashville. And now, Memphis 901.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know where you want to start, if you even want to start with this.
I don't want to start at all. I think that's why Dan ultimately didn't join tonight, was because he didn't want to talk about it.
Oh, that's probably fair.
Yeah.
He's probably crying into his pillow right now.
Probably.
1
goal through 2 games. To put it into perspective.
No, 2.
2. Yeah,
right. 2 goals in 2 games, 1 against a USL side.
That's right.
In the trap, how on a scale of 1 to 10, what is 1 being it's totally fine and not in like the dog in the house burning down, like an actual it's totally fine, we're doing great, from a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, let's say, Pineda out, where are you at?
This came in waves, right? Like, I think Wednesday last week, it was definitely more on the scale of like a 7, 8.
Oh yeah. And the rating being panic. Yes.
How does this happen? I mean, regardless of your lineup and the roster moves that have had to take place because of injury and everything else, you're losing to a USL team, proverbially at home at KSU. Like, that should not be happening.
No, it shouldn't be happening.
And you're up within the first 3 minutes with a goal from Tyler Wolff, and then go on to do 0 after that.
Less than 0.
Yeah.
-2 after that.
Yeah.
And those -2 coming later on. Yes, you're right, Joe Johnstone. It's a reverse scale, but it's the panic scale. So it's like, no, it's not a reverse scale. It's the scale they use at the hospital.
Yeah.
1 to 10. What's your pain right now?
So Wednesday was definitely crisis mode.
Yeah.
Saturday. It
was Saturday.
You know, the result sucks, but ultimately, like, the performance on the field, personally, I didn't think I've certainly seen worse out of this team. Statistically, they were on par with what Nashville did throughout the game. I think Atlanta had 66% possession, 17 shots on goal, or 17 shots with only 2 on goal. That's the disappointing thing. 17 shots with 2 on goal compared to Nashville, who had 11, I think, with 4 on goal.
I'll pull those stats up real quick.
But I think statistically and ultimately just the eye test, it's like Atlanta never really seemed out of that game, even at the end, up until the goal that gets scored in stoppage time, like Atlanta's kind of on the front foot after the PK goal from Almada, who should have taken Aruju's earlier this season.
Oh,
Let's be
yeah,
honest.
for sure.
But
I mean, Joe Willis, what was he doing on that penalty?
I have no idea.
He just sat and watched it go 1 foot to the side of him.
Yeah.
I don't know if he just really got that flat-footed from a
No
stutter
idea.
or something.
No idea. Yeah. So the second game, I feel like overall the performance was certainly better, and there was a lot more, I think, to take away from a loss against an MLS side too. So
it's a good MLS side too.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the second game, the crisis mode meter was maybe at a 4 for me, 3 or 4. Understandably, I have concerns in that, I just don't know how this team operates with some of its key pieces or lack thereof sometimes. Like Giakoumakis being out, who the fuck is our striker?
We don't have one.
Exactly.
We don't have one.
Then also your other DP and Aruju, where the fuck is he half the time?
That's honestly probably a bigger concern, right?
Yeah.
He assisted Tyler Wolff's goal, right? Against Memphis.
I believe so.
Yeah. Crossfield.
And he had some great moments throughout the Nashville game. But overall, it just he's not giving enough for what you're asking of him.
Yeah, I feel like that's the story. That's been the story outside of the first few weeks whenever he came in mid-season in his first year. And it's hard to see the I don't know. It's just
Jay Hannibal echoes that how bad is Aruju though. But yeah, I mean, so overall for me, and I want you to answer these too. So overall for me, you almost have to take it as an average, right? So I'm thinking 3 or 4 after the Nashville game, maybe a 7 or 8 with the Memphis game. I'll average out to probably a 4 to 4.5 maybe for me. It's not completely everything is fine, and it's not this is great either, or the sky is falling. It's more on the lower end spectrum, I feel like, of this is going to be okay. But there's still some question marks there.
No, I agree with you completely. So the Memphis result is kind of bittersweet in my opinion. And I know that sounds weird, but I don't know that we were going to be able to. I think a couple things have been exposed, right? I think that we are thin as a side when it comes to impactful players, right?
Absolutely.
No, as Jay Hannibal said, no Yako, no party. He's not in.
Whenever you've got a player that scored 4 goals in 4 matches, and the next guy up hasn't scored a goal in 30 appearances at this point.
Oh, Miguel Berry, yeah. So, and that's the problem, right? We got. And I'm probably guilty of getting swept up in the moment with Thiago Almada's theatrics, heroics in the beginning of the year. And that's going to he's going to be able to provide those moments. But when you're without your star striker, you can't rely on a center attacking midfielder to give you those goals. Right. He's there to create chances. He's there to score goals occasionally, but you need that guy that's up the middle, up top, that's going to be putting his head on the end of the ball like Jakob has. But so it definitely, this run of results, I feel like has kind of exposed our lack of impact on the bench, which losing to Memphis maybe isn't the worst thing, because seeing that now, I don't know. And I'm looking at this through rose-colored glasses, looking at this from, hindsight, whatever. But I still, I want to look at the positive that we're not going to have to worry about fielding a team midweek playing U.S. Open Cup games down the line.
But how beneficial would it have been to get more reps for these players that we're having to lean on now in MLS play whenever they don't have these other games to get those reps to get up to speed?
It's tough, right? Because they're obviously
That's the flip side of it.
Well, obviously they're not good enough to beat a USL side.
Exactly.
It's so I don't know if more time against more USL sides is really gonna pan that out. I think that's what the twos are for. Go play against. Yeah. So, I mean, it was always going to be.
That's a really good point, actually, you mentioning the twos. That's something I've not really, I feel like in the past, every manager has utilized the twos for players to get reps. Yeah. And that's not something I've really seen Pineda utilize much, unless I've just not been paying enough attention to see that he's got players actually making those transitions to get that play time and stay fresh rather than being in the lineup but not really getting any meaningful minutes. Like I know that you need Chol because you've got Chol and Barry kind of up there right now with Yakimakis' situation, but
what about Eric? To Joe Johnston's point, Eric Lopez, he's down at the twos, right? Like, I mean, he can't be worse,
right,
in production, right? Then
no,
yeah, I don't know. He can't be worse in production than Miguel Berry's been.
No, exactly.
Yeah. Or Chol, and Chol's playing out of position, playing forward.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's not. He's a winger, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, by trade, it's, I don't know, it's tough. Elliot Beavan should have kept Ronaldo Cisneros.
I was thinking the same thing, man.
Or Dom Dwyer.
He had what, 3 or 4 goals? Dom Dwyer would be a godsend right now for this team.
Yeah, I wonder if there aren't, without pulling it up right now, and maybe somebody knows, but there have to be some forwards out there that are sitting on the. It's just hard for me to look at like the Kai Kamara situation where he was without a team and we needed a backup striker. I don't know. I mean, I guess he's starting right now, but I don't know. There just seem to be veteran strikers that we could benefit highly from bringing into our team that we just let go I don't know. Maybe we do go after them and we just don't hear about it. But I just feel like we always have really, really shallow depth with our strikers.
I completely agree.
And
it's been that way since as long as I can remember. I mean, even during the MLS Cup run, dude, it was really that way. I mean, if you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, in this salary cap strapped league, right?
I mean, you think about every season so far, it's been Kenwin Jones, then it was Brandon Vasquez, then it was who was it?
Adam John.
Yeah, I mean, it's always kind of been that way, and you really have to depend on your forward staying healthy for the season, and Atlanta's not been able to do that.
No, and I think Dom Dwyer might be the best backup striker that we've had in recent memory.
Yeah.
Either him or I guess Ronaldo Cisneros, who he had a hat trick at during one match last year. So,
this is a good one, and I've already seen comments going both ways here. What's going to be a bigger hole to fill for Atlanta United in the lineup, Almada or Miles Robinson? Elliot Beavan says Miles, Joe Johnstone Almada, Brittany S. Almada. What are you thinking, Tim?
I love Miles Robinson to death, but he's not Almada from like an impact perspective, I don't think. I think he's arguably the best defender or like a top 2-3 defender in MLS.
I think I will play contrarian to that and say Miles, because right now you've got one season with Almada, and yes, he's made a huge impact, but the team has had multiple seasons without him. Granted, the results have kind of spoken for themselves without him, versus how used this team and this fan base has gotten to having Miles Robinson back there over the past couple of years. I mean, yet last year he misses a good bit of the season, and Atlanta ultimately kind of slogs through the season defensively. I mean, I don't know that we had, I could probably count on one hand the number of clean sheets we had last year without him.
Yeah.
And granted, that's without Guzan too.
I mean, he's a hell of a defender. You're right. And there are ways to work around not having a highly creative, highly impactful number 10, because you have like potentially in this lineup or in this formation, you have 2 or 3 other positions.
That's right.
That can help supplement that if you have a lesser player in that role. Whereas,
and you can shut it down a lot easier too,
right,
from a defensive standpoint. I mean, that's basically what Nashville did. They kind of boxed Almada out for the second half of that game. I mean, he wasn't really as impactful during big chunks of that Nashville game. Versus, I mean, what are you gonna do? Box out a center back? You know, it's sort of the flip side of that. Like, that's where I think that Miles may be the bigger impact.
No, you're right.
Not having him there,
because when I look back at the last 7 years or 6.5 years of Atlanta United without Miles, I mean, the only center back pairing that to me, the center back pairing of Miles and basically anybody else versus, I don't know, maybe the championship year was that Parkhurst and LGP.
Yeah.
In our championship year. but still, like,
he's elevated everybody he's played
absolutely has, and he's the best. I think he's the best one-on-one defender and recovery center back in MLS, and it's something that absolutely it's hard to replace that.
Yeah. Again, and then you think about it, like you just mentioned with Almada, like what you do offensively without that creative number 10 player, like you could still score goals in a lot of different ways versus if you have the center of the field locked down, that really limits what offenses can do against your defense, that they have to play it more from the wings, or they have to try to get him on an off foot and hope that whoever is there alongside him, whether it's Parada or George Campbell, whoever.
No, Parada plays striker now. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so for me, I think that's the difference there, is that you are forcing offenses to do so much by having Miles there versus not having Almada up top. You could still do a lot of things offensively.
That's fair. Yeah, I think you might have sold me on that, even though you were taking the counterpoint to it. But I mean, he allows you to push forward more because he's able to recover and make up for people being out of position. Yeah, but I think it was Total Football. I wish I should start pulling these tweets up. I just never have the time. Says something to the effect of Miles deserves DP money.
That's the real question.
Yeah, Miles deserves DP money. I would not blame Atlanta United for not giving him DP money, and I would not. And I don't remember. And I wouldn't blame Atlanta United for giving him DP money.
Yep, no, that's exactly it. And I think that ultimately it's going to go the way of him not getting DP money.
Do you keep Miles or do you keep Aruju?
Yeah, I don't think
there's no question, right?
Yeah,
like if that is the quandary, is that you have in his prime, probably best center back in MLS, again, if not like top 2-3 with Walker Zimmerman. And you have Aruju, who has failed to really live up to his price tag, to his hype, to really, even if you take those things out, the responsibilities that have been laid at his feet as a designated player, if you're faced with that quandary of like, who do I keep out of those two? I don't think it's as long as you can guarantee that Miles is going to stay long term.
I mean, how many teams even have paid a defender aside from Nashville? Well, we have maybe 2 teams in the league that are paying a defender DP money, and I don't even know if it's anybody other than Nashville.
I'll pull up the DP list in a second. I don't know that there are any others in MLS right now.
Yeah.
The one that I can think of,
it's just not a league that's built that way.
No. Right. This league's success, your success as a team is built on scoring in MLS, like outscoring your opponent. I know that sounds stupid. Of course, that's your
and ultimately, I don't know that he's going to get, because of that stigma and because of the way the league is structured and because he's so unproven the way that Walker Zimmerman has been. I don't know that he's going to get a DP position somewhere else in the league either. Like, I think the best chance that he really has to take his game to the next level is to move on, to Jay Hannibal's point, to take a shot in Europe,
Well, that requires somebody in Europe taking a shot on him.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know. Hold on. Let me see. Defensive DPs MLS.
Yeah, I don't know that I could, while I think that Miles is going to be the harder position to deal with his absence, I don't know that it's worth the salary that he's going to require to keep him in that role. And I know that sounds sort of contradictory to itself, but at the same time, I just don't know how you justify that in this league right now. I really don't.
What, a defensive DP?
Yeah.
It is tough. It is tough, but I look at it and like, if you get the top of class center back in his prime and you lock him down and he can be a stalwart on your defense for the next 6-7 years, and you don't have to worry about hitting or missing on a DP, like, there's such volatility in that position, or in that with designated players.
Yeah.
especially like we've not had a great track record.
But it's also like, what are you using DPs for? That's the other thing. Is like more times than not, at least Atlanta United has used the DP position to then make money on the back end. You sign Miles Robinson into a DP position. I don't know that all of a sudden you're going to then springboard his contract into something that you're making 30, 40, 50% profit on the back end of it. You're really just doing it to lock him into a 5 or 6 year deal.
Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like we're one of a few teams, if not maybe the main team that does that, that's using these DP slots to try and, I wouldn't even say turn a profit, because I don't think Arthur Blank really needs that. I think it's more about turning this into an exciting place for young players to come and develop and springboard. But not a lot of, like, I look at this list of DPs and, I don't think that MLS is necessarily the retirement league that it used to be. There still are a good bit of guys that are coming in a little past their prime. And
oh, dude, speaking of that, just to derail things, have you heard the rumors about what they're proposing to get Messi to play in MLS?
About giving him a team?
No. And I don't know. I haven't looked at anything to see if this is substantiated at all. But I guess that there's something that's been thrown out there potentially that every team in the MLS would essentially contribute
pay his salary
to the Messi fee, because he's going to be such a draw, and then you let him choose where he wants to go in the league.
And it's Miami. He's going to go to Miami, right? Like, that is the ultimate landing spot.
Like, how crazy is that?
Yeah, it's kind of stupid. Well, he just got suspended for 2 weeks by PSG for taking some unsolicited trip to Saudi Arabia. And some unsanctioned trip.
Sounds like he's going to be playing on Live or with Pity Martinez before you know it.
Unsolicited sounds like he got kidnapped and taken to Saudi Arabia. He didn't get permission from PSG to go make that trip. And so they suspended him, and it sounds like they're terminating his contract, or they're walking away from each other at the end of the season, which is in a few weeks, I guess.
Yeah.
And it just leaves him free to go wherever he wants. And I saw a list of landing spots. MLS is one of them, Miami probably being the top slot, but then also like Newell's Old Boys, which I don't know if you know Messi's story. Like, he started off with them, and then he needed treatment for some sort of condition. Barcelona took him over, or took his contract, took him over, and whatever. So go back to play for them, go back to play for Barcelona, go to play a year in EPL because he's still fully capable. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not seeing any other defensive DPs that I really recognize. Wikipedia doesn't give me that. I have the full list. I mean, the other closest one is maybe Victor Wanyama from Montreal, but he's a center defense mid. It's hard for me to find anybody that I recognize as any of the 4 defender spots.
Also, speaking of teams and players playing in Europe potentially, you saw that Wrexham won the championship.
Yeah.
And then I guess that Rob McElhenney tweeted out to Gareth Bale about and all the comments were like, dude, like, that's a legacy kind of deal. Like, and if anything, that's the kind of place to do it.
Yeah.
But apparently I didn't realize that the championship schedule is just fucking ridiculous. Like, they play 2 games a week. And it's everybody's like, to a guy that could barely hang on for a full season to begin with, like, that would break him physically.
Yeah, they play 46 games this season in League 2. I think in League 1 and Championship, they also play 46 games.
But that would be pretty fucking awesome story to see play out.
He was like, I think he's like, I just want to play golf.
Just want to play golf,
kids. That's all he wants to do. I saw some rumor about Zlatan going there.
Oh, I did not see that.
I think the most realistic one is there's a Welsh striker that played I'm pretty sure he played in the EPL for a little bit.
Dude, there's so much hype around that team.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to do it just because it allows them to get the additional, not sponsor. The publicity and sponsorship to then they know that they're at the end of their career, and maybe they aren't, but just that sort of all eyes on me mentality is somebody's going to bite at that for sure.
Exactly. Hal Robson-Kanu is he's a forward who played for Wales. He played for West Brom in EPL and also in the Championship because they go up and down all the time. But he tweeted out a couple weeks ago. He said he's like, I would come out of retirement because he's only 33, so he retired pretty early. He retired 2 years ago. So he said, he was like, I'd come out of retirement, I would play, and I would donate my entire salary to charity.
That's awesome.
I was like, he was a pretty good forward. So yeah, I'm sure they won't have a hard time attracting like
No, they
championship
really won't.
and League One type players to come down and play for them.
Like I could see this. Like what's crazy is, can you just imagine where this train stops potentially? Like they're picking up steam in a way now that like is only going to continue to build momentum.
Well,
like,
the team that beat them out of promotion last year, automatic promotion, Stockport, I believe just secured promotion already to League One. So they're already like, that's the model, right?
Right.
So you can get there. I don't really see any other, unless anybody can correct me, I don't see any other defensive DPs.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know that I would personally justify it if I'm putting on my front office hat.
Yeah, I don't know. The only other guy I can think of is there was a Belgian center back who was a defensive player or designated player for LA Galaxy whenever we first came into the league. I can't remember his name. Yelly Van Dam was his name. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's.
So yeah, I don't think that the sky is falling at all right now. But like I said, I don't really know how to feel optimistic with the current state of things. Like,
no, it's hard. It feels like a transitionary period right now in the season. Yeah, and it's pretty early on.
Exactly. But that said, the positions that we have out are not season ending, which gives some light of optimism on the remainder of the season, right? Like, Guzan will be back in a couple of weeks. Giakoumakis seems to be day to day. Like, I don't think that he's going to be out for a substantial period of time.
It looks like Ozzy Alonso is close to coming back,
right?
With those little. Did you see his little braids?
No, I did not.
He's got a little tiny.
Did not.
Yeah. And he looks. Somebody's like, "Did you get a facelift?" Like, because you look like he looks like 10 years younger. But yeah, I don't think we're really damned with any sort of personnel loss for the rest of the season, which is a complete opposite from where we were last year.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Joe Johnstone has brought it up probably 3 or 4 times, so I feel like I shouldn't acknowledge it in the trap. But Clement Jop saying that he's been great, but he wish his hands were stickier because it was the second goal. It was Mukhtar's shot, right? That he deflected and it was cleaned up by Teal Bunbury.
Yep.
That's another guy. Teal Bunbury's was starting a striker for New England, and I don't know. Anyway.
You think Joseph's just been waiting 8 games this season to score this weekend?
Oh, that is this weekend, isn't it?
I was just checking to see if he's scored yet this season. He has not through 7 matches. So I think it's going to happen this weekend. Wouldn't that be some shit?
Yeah, it would be poetic, I guess, in a way.
Oh, but yeah, I like Elliot Beaven. I want to see the GG versus Joseph face off, especially with Giakoumakis wearing number 7 to begin with, too.
Dude, he's so good.
Yeah.
Giakoumakis is so good.
Yeah.
I hope we can hold on to him long term because I think his injury right now is probably him coming in practically cold and going into the season and overworking himself.
What if he scores and does the Joseph knee plant celebration? How fucking ridiculous.
I hope so. That would be like Jim Curtin level shit.
I'm the king now.
Yeah. I think a fight would break out.
That would be some crazy shit.
Yeah, that would be some crazy shit. I would pay to see that. That'd be pretty amazing. Oh, good God. Jay Hannibal, does Joseph celebrate if he scores?
Without a doubt.
I don't think so. I don't know.
If Joseph scores on Atlanta, there's no doubt that he celebrates.
There's almost no player that I can think of that I've watched celebrate against their old team whenever they score. I don't know. Maybe he felt so hard done by
how things went with his departure.
Yeah.
Whenever he was signed on to still have 3 years left in his contract or something like that.
Yeah.
2 or 3.
No, it's I think I want to say his contract's up next year.
So it was 2 years then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Pineda's job in danger right now? Is he on the hot seat? What say you in the trap? Is Pineda's job in jeopardy.
I don't think any more so than it has been. We're still sitting, third place in the East?
Yeah. We're ahead of Nashville still.
Yeah, I mean, right now you're in good shape. You've got a long way to fall before somebody starts going, what are we doing this season? And I understand last week was a rough week. Losing both of those games was rough.
Yeah.
But it's not like you're losing 8 in a row or something like that, or you're completely out of contention. Obviously you've got some issues with certain personnel and stuff like that you've got to get healthy and get back out there. But for all intents and purposes, seems like the team is more than capable of doing so.
What if I told you that aside from the Chicago last second, I guess not a fluke, but the last second winner against Chicago, aside from that, we hadn't won a match in over a month?
No, I believe
from
it.
now. Yeah. It was.
It's been a lot of draws.
It was the Red Bulls.
Yeah.
1-0 back on April 1st was our last win outside of that Chicago win.
I agree with Josh, though. If we don't make the playoffs this year, he's out.
Oh, yeah. I think
without
that's
a doubt.
fair. Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Man.
I mean, and Elliot Beaven, it's too early for Pineda to lose his job. Again, it's one of those things. Like, I think that Atlanta has not done themselves any favors by playing on the manager carousel over recent years.
No, not at all.
And I'm not saying that all of those individuals deserve to have those positions or stay with the club, but it certainly didn't build any continuity, year over year between different people in the roster. Was it Frank DeBoer or was it Pitti and Barco and the people that he had in his roster that were the issue? After 2018 run, like, Atlanta didn't win the MLS Cup, but they still won 2 significant trophies that year.
Yeah. And we're, again, I mean, we always talk about it, but we're one worldie away from the MLS final.
So it's not like he just ran it into the ground.
No.
And so I think that that's where you got to kind of give Pineda the benefit of the doubt throughout the entirety of the season. And depending on the results, again, if he doesn't make the playoffs, absolutely it's up for discussion. But right now, way too early to be having those conversations, in my opinion.
No, that's fair. Nashville game. I admittedly was at an art market and wasn't able to watch live. I watched the highlights. So I'm plastic, but from the highlights, you're right. Like, what I saw, it seemed like we were in the game with them. Mm-hmm. And to Joe's point, I feel like Clement Jop, I don't think that the first goal was on him, and I don't think that the third goal was on him either.
No,
because I don't remember who the guy was that scored the third goal, but squeaked between Abram and Miles Robinson and got through.
Yep. I can't remember his name either. It starts with an S.
Oh, it's gonna bother me.
Schreninger.
Schaffelberg. Yeah, Schaffelberg. But yeah, I mean, I feel like he's been fine in goal.
He has, but again, it's just even that last goal. Like, he doesn't do himself any favors to get as big as possible with that last goal. He almost reflexively shies away from making the contact in that one-on-one situation. It's not like he's been the worst person back there, and he's certainly got some experience with other clubs and is more than capable. What was interesting to me for the Nashville game in the lineup was the decision, and what I'm thinking Pineda may be leaning towards, which is Caleb Wiley over ETN over on left wing.
Yeah, I mean, I would take that. Yeah. I think it needs to be that, right?
I mean, the link up with him and Gutman has been some of the best that we've seen on the left side of the field in, I would say, in Atlanta United's entirety. Like, consistently, that Wiley and Gutman link up. I mean, we've just not seen that level of compatibility between two players on the left wing, maybe ever,
No, I'm excited about that. Enjoy Caleb Wiley while he's here, but I think absolutely, I think he's shown a lot more, especially in the finished product, than, or at the in the final third than Derek Etienne has. So, I would like to see Ibarra back,
Yeah.
like anchoring that midfield.
Yeah.
I don't know what that lineup looks like against Miami, but I feel like our shift in personnel has kind of, I don't know, led us down this path. I don't know. I just fear that we're not a one-man team, but I think we are going to be going the way that Jaco goes.
Well, especially if the midfield, I mean, and I think that's part of the whole Ibarra situation. Like, if anything, the biggest criticism I had in that Nashville game was just the lack of the midfield was completely open for Nashville, going from top of their 18 inside of our 18, just completely unmarked, unmanned, unattended to, whatever you want to say, across the pitch. They just did whatever they wanted to through the midfield. And, I don't know if it was because Josetu and Sosa were just too far up or too far back. Like, I don't know what it was, but nobody was really that anchor centrally to try to give some level of hold-up play to turn the ball over. And you can't lean on Almada to do everything, man. Like, he's not always going to be that guy in the center of the field either. Like, you want him to drift everywhere. You don't want your center mid to just be non-existent, or not unavailable whenever they're on a quick counter or something like that.
Yeah, the less you ask him to do, the more he's going to do. I feel like the less you require of him, the more you're going to get out of him.
That's right.
And I think that with Ibarra on the lineup, and I kind of like this from Elliot Beaven. He says Sejdic and Ibarra is the best midfield pair that we have.
Yeah.
I think we've seen that early on in the season.
You need anchors in the midfield. Whenever you have Almada doing what he does best, you're not expecting your midfield to be doing everything that he's doing. That's where Atlanta gets into trouble, is that now
he's not an 8.
Yeah. Now you've got your midfielders stretching too much of the field along with Almada, who's doing the same. And then you get caught out of position, and then they can build up and have their way through the middle of the field, especially if they box out one of your guys like they did with Almada. He's got nobody to play off of in the midfield. So,
100%. Yeah,
but still, like I said, overall, they led possession by, like I said, 66%, I think, is what I saw.
I can pull that up real quick.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't. That result was a bummer for sure. And I would hope that this weekend they kind of get back on track for sure.
It's 55% to Atlanta. So it was 11 shots to 12. Atlanta United had more shots.
It was like 4 and 2 for on goal, and Nashville having 4 on and Atlanta having 2. Is that right?
Am I looking at the right thing?
You're looking at the Nashville game?
That's weird. Yeah, it's like, it's showing me something else on who scored. Maybe I need to look somewhere else. But anyway,
try just Google. If you just Google, they should have it on there too.
Yeah, you're right. It's 66%.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's. Oh, I think they might have been aggregating our matchups against each other, or maybe that was an old game that it was showing me down there. But 17-11 actually. 17 from Atlanta.
That's what I'm saying.
2 on target.
That's the disappointing part.
And one was a pretty decent effort by Josetu in the first
top
half.
of the 18. Yeah.
He's like consistently able to get those shots off and get those on frame. I think he scored 1 or 2 in the past couple of years, but so they're usually not super effective, but I don't know. Yeah. I mean, 3-1 is better than 6-1. 3-1 to a good side, and Nashville is not the worst thing.
3-1 with one of those being at the dagger.
Yeah.
Again, up until then, Atlanta's in the hunt to at least claw back a draw. You get the PK in 72nd minute, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got 20 minutes left to play. Atlanta's trying to get that equalizer and ultimately can't, but they were.
That Queen Latifah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I guess we move on. When was the last time Miami has won? Have they broken their losing streak?
I could not tell you.
They did. They did. This past weekend they beat Columbus 2-1. So they had before that, outside of US Open Cup play, I don't think they had won in looks like since March 4th. That was their last win.
Jeez.
Yeah. So almost 2 months between wins in MLS.
That's crazy.
That's rough. Yeah, that's rough considering they were a relatively good team last year. So yeah, it's yikes.
Yeah.
Big yikes. So I don't know a whole lot about them this year outside of Joseph,
Yeah, me
and
neither.
their inability to score goals seems pretty apparent. No download this week, so I don't know if I'm going to get super educated on them in the meantime. But did Campana score both of their goals? Yeah, he scored both of their goals against Columbus. Yeah, I never know. They don't have Lewis Morgan anymore. I don't know if you remember those days whenever Miami their first year maybe, and he would just destroy us. He plays for Red Bulls now, but I think unless he moved again, but yeah, I don't know that I really fear this Miami team.
Not this season, not with the way they're playing right now.
No, I don't think so.
But that's sort of the worst position to be in, is going down there expecting that. That's what I'm hoping. This is a good game for this team to right the ship, is that exact situation.
Yeah.
That it's not like we're playing at Miami coming off of that high the first couple of weeks of the season where Atlanta's comfortably, in the driver's seat in the East. That's whenever we end up taking the big loss to Portland. We're in a position now, I think, to try to right the ship against a team that is more than capable of scoring on Atlanta, but hopefully is a good game that Atlanta can get back into the driver's seat and make it a statement game that, yes, we are here, yes, we are capable, and they've got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder to prove that, I think. And that was back to one of the things we were talking about earlier on in the season, where people were sort of putting these asterisks next to games that Atlanta had won, where it's like, you have to win. Like, championship teams win the games they're supposed to win. And this is certainly one of those games.
Yeah, for sure.
Atlanta is supposed to win this game, but the mentality needs to be such that they have a lot to prove, even with them supposedly, more than capable of winning this game because of losing to Memphis, losing to Nashville.
Yeah, we have to right the ship.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think this becomes like a really troubling trend.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Do we have any word whether or not Giakoumakis? It looks like he's back in training. I'm hopeful that he's going to be in the lineup come Saturday.
I would hope so too, man. I really would.
Yeah, that would be quite. Sight.
It doesn't seem like, again, it just seems like it's a day-to-day hamstring kind of deal from everything I've seen. So hopefully it's back up to where it needs to be.
Yeah. Do you have any score predictions?
I'll say 2-0 Atlanta.
I like it. I'll say the same thing. Yeah, I guess I should look at a brief description, I guess, of Miami. They usually have their traits or whatever. Maybe not. I don't know. Oh, well, fuck it. Oh, it's attacking down the right. So Gutman.
Yep.
Possession football. Battling for possession. Maybe it'll be a boring game in the midfield. Takes long shots. Attempt through balls often. Play with width. They're not aggressive. They play the offside trap, which I feel like we've beaten that a handful of times this year. And then they have a consistent first 11, so they're not really much for lineup changes, I guess. That's all I got.
Seems like Joseph's not. I mean, he's only got 7 matches played this season. Seems like he's not been starting even.
Yeah, I think he didn't start the first couple of games, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe the first game, and then he's missed one due to international, whenever he was on international duty.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know. I could pull it up, but it might take a minute. Yeah. How are you guys feeling in the trap? So Brittany S says 2-1 Atlanta, Parada brace.
If Pineda keeps playing him like he did against
it's like towards the end of the game, right?
Jay Hannibal 2-0 Atlanta, Giakoumakis brace and a Joseph celebration. Elliot Bevan 2-1 Atlanta. Yeah, I feel good about this game. I definitely do. Even with these recent performances, I still feel like Atlanta's more than capable, but they've got to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Joseph started 6 out of 7 games that he's played,
Okay.
and they've only played 9 matches so far. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah. And he missed 1 at least on international duty.
Yeah.
So he's been pretty solid in their lineup. Well, I mean, he's been consistently in their lineup. Yeah. Yeah, this might be a short show. I don't know if I have much else.
I got nothing else either, man. It's always tough to try to salvage something out of these games, especially whenever there's 2 of them back to back like that. And ultimately, it just comes down to seeing what's going to shake out this weekend. But hopeful for a good result for sure.
Let's see. Jay Hannibal asking any thoughts on Premier League summer games. I actually got this question at work today. If I'm going to be going to, I think it's Chelsea and Newcastle are playing at the Benz.
Yeah.
Who else is coming?
That's the only one I know.
Let's see. Dead air. I'm looking for Premier League at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Yeah, the only one I see. Oh, Brighton and Brentford are also playing.
Gotcha.
2 teams that I would not, ask me 5 years ago if I saw them in the Premier League. And Brighton's like a top 6 side, which is crazy. I don't know. I think that would be fun to go and see.
The Newcastle game would be fun, especially
if Miggy comes back, but a lot of times their stars get rested for these tours, or they don't really. I guess
there's no way they do for this kind of deal.
You're
like
right.
if it's anywhere else, yeah, for sure. He definitely comes on. Whether he plays a full 90, that's anybody's guess.
Different story,
but he's there's no doubt that he comes and he travels and he starts.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. And Mercedes-Benz is going to erupt whenever
he scores.
Gets announced. Oh yeah, that'd be great
whenever he scores. Yeah. Yeah, he's going to be playing in Champions League next year. Real Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
More than likely. I kind of hope he's not, because I need them or United to start losing, because Liverpool's been on a tear recently. We can't make any ground up because everybody else is still winning. But anyway. Have you watched any of the Premier League? Like seeing Erling Haaland score. Did he score again today? Yeah. He's got over 50 goals this year. Between EPL and Champions League and everything. He scored 51 goals.
That's crazy.
Yeah. He's 22 years old.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's only 22. He might be 21. Yeah, he's 22. He turns 23 in the summer. Yeah. He broke Mo Salah's scoring record. And anyway, it's Everton's going to get relegated, which is pretty awesome. I'm going to be happy to see that. Poverty franchise in championship next year. I don't know. Maybe they won't get relegated. Yeah, I don't know. I got anything else?
I got nothing either, man. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for hanging out with us. Find us on Twitter at Home Before Dark. That's before spelled B and the number 4. Be sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to get a notification each and every time we go live. Hopefully next week, Dan will be back, and it will be a much better outcome against Inter Miami. So be sure to stay tuned for that, and we'll see you then. As always, be home before dark.
We're going to clip the flamingo's wings.
Oh, God.
Yeah.